Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, dozens of parents and students gearing up to protest. Why they say their school district is making it harder, even dangerous for kids to get to and from school. Plus, more than a dozen states are fighting back against the Trump administration's new migrant detention policy, what the lawsuit claims. And after nearly 2 years in ICE custody, a refugee is reunited with his family here in San Diego. We're there for the reunion. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's August 26th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. It was back to school for more than 100,000 local students today, and while things went smoothly at most campuses, that was not the case at others. KPBS reporter John Carroll is live in one school district where parents are making their voices heard in a heated dispute over transportation. John.
Ebony, trustees of the Sweetwater Union High School District will begin their meeting here at Montgomery High School in South San Diego at 6 tonight. And a group of very upset parents is going to be here as well. Their issue? They say the cutting of 20 bus routes is affecting their children's ability to get to school and to get there safely. Now, we are only talking about San Isidro High School here. 20 bus routes were cut this year. School administrators saying the cuts were necessary to close a budget gap. But the students and their families say the district has mismanaged its money, and that's why it finds itself in the financial condition it does today. 19-year-old Hector Castro graduated last year from San Isidro High. His younger sister still attends there. He says the cutting of the bus routes means some students have a long, difficult, even dangerous path to school without a bus.
Students have to wake up 4 or 5 hours earlier than what they're supposed to walk up a hill. That is the road I mentioned earlier. They have to walk up this canyon road with scorching hot weather. They have to prepare a meal or some sort of refreshment to be able to walk up this hill. This canyon road has rodents, has snakes, coyotes. It's a very dangerous road.
Now, as you might imagine, the district has a somewhat different take on this issue. And for more on that, we're joined by Manny Rubio, who is the Director of Communications for the Sweetwater Union High School District. Manny, what do you say to those families that have concerns about their children walking, they say, uphill, scorching heat, no buses?
Sure. Well, we definitely have, we definitely understand that this is, it's a challenge for a lot of families. But, I think beyond just the budget considerations that, that were mentioned, there are a lot of factors that are at play here. One of the big factors at play here was that San Isidro, for about 17 years since 2002, when the school was opened, all of the students were offered free transportation throughout the entire time. And part of that was because there were no real safe routes to school. There was major thoroughfares such as the 905, such as Old Otay Mesa Road, which we're talking about, and Caliente Avenue, which were not really in place at the time. They have all finally come together, and as of May of 2019, those were all in place. Our commitment was always to the community that we would provide free transportation until that time. No other school in our district, we have 13 high schools, no other school in our district received that level of transportation, and so it was really just part of that time where we had to move forward. Definitely we understand the concerns and we understand some of those safety issues, but we're also trying to address those. We've been meeting with parents, we've been meeting with students throughout this entire period and trying to find solutions to all of these.
And let me just ask you very, very quickly, if I could, what could come out of the meeting tonight? It's on the agenda. What could they decide?
Yeah. Well, one of the things we're going to do is just provide an update in terms of what we've done. A couple of things we've done is we've actually expedited in terms of opening up some of the routes that are still there, because there are still a couple of bus routes that are coming from some of the further neighborhoods in San Isidro. We're opening those up to additional students, and then we're actually going to be announcing where we're going to address adding, and not new piece of news, but something we've been talking about is adding 2 additional routes.
Right.
Part of our challenge has actually been hiring drivers. A lot of districts, and we've heard even some of our municipalities have been having trouble hiring drivers. So that's been our challenge. Once we get that addressed, we'll hopefully add those couple routes.
Manny Rubio, thanks so much for joining us live tonight. Appreciate that. Again, Ebony, the meeting getting underway here at 6 tonight, and we'll find out what they do later on, and we will, of course, bring that to our audience both on television, on radio, and online at kpbs.org. Ebony?
And John, I have a question. Some parents say that they've been paying hundreds of dollars a year for the buses, and they're asking, how can the district collect those fees yet cut the routes?
Well, aside from what Manny was just talking about with the promise that they would do it as long as the roads were not safe for the kids, and now they are, the parents have been paying $400 a year, but that is subsidized pretty heavily by the district. Manny Rubio says that costs the district about $1,000 a year in actuality for each student, and that is obviously adds up to a lot of money, and that's why they say they're just not able to afford that. There was another thing he also talked about earlier, that there are some after-school programs that students can take advantage of, and one of the good things about that is the students get transportation home that participate in those programs. Live here in South San Diego tonight, John Carroll, KPBS News.
More reason to participate in those programs. Thanks, John. 19 states and the District of Columbia are suing the Trump administration's new immigration detention policy. The lawsuit was announced today by California Attorney General Xavier Becerra. Last week, the administration proposed an overhaul of the 1997 Flores settlement. It limited child detainment to 20 days. Under the new policy, undocumented families could be held indefinitely. Becerra joined Governor Gavin Newsom to denounce the plan.
And this notion that you can indefinitely intern the children in this state is perverse, unconscionable, clearly in violation of Flores, and clearly warrants this action by the Attorney General.
This administration is not above the law. They cannot rewrite the rules to detain children for a prolonged period of time and infringe on the rights of states in the process. We are ready to fight for the most vulnerable among us, and we will do it whatever it takes to protect all of our communities.
A judge must okay the Trump administration's proposed changes in order to end the agreement. An asylum seeker from the Democratic Republic of the Congo is reunited with his family after almost 2 years in ICE detention. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler was there as his welcome celebration kicked off.
Constantine Bakala had not seen his family in 21 months before he was paroled out of ICE custody this week. On Sunday at St. Luke's North Park, he was all smiles as he thanked his friends and supporters for rallying for his release. The joy that I feel right now, I don't have words for it, Bakala said through an interpreter. Bakala says he was kidnapped, imprisoned, and tortured in the Democratic Republic of Congo for belonging to a pro-democracy political party. He left the country and traveled with his wife and 7 children to Brazil, and after a perilous journey through South and Central America, arrived at the San Isidro port of entry in November 2017. There, he was separated from his wife and children, who settled in San Diego while their asylum claims are pending. Bakala was initially ordered removed from the country, but his family's new church, St. Luke's, sprung into action to get him free, raising money and locating an immigration attorney for him. One of the church's pastors, Colin Mathewson, explained the efforts that went into getting Constantine reunited with his family.
Constantine's prospects for winning asylum in the U.S. are finally looking up, but at an incredible cost. To prevent Constantine's deportation and return him to his family required over 30 lawyers working in 5 states, 30 volunteers working in 5 states, 8 lawyers, more than 23 stories in the media.
Bakala's daughter, 17-year-old Mary Louise, recognized that not everyone in immigration detention has had as much help as her father.
I want to tell those people who have the same situation as my family, just remember that you are not alone. There will be people who will help you and who will support your family.
Bakala speaks French, and his English skills are limited. That was a huge barrier during his initial asylum hearings, where he had to submit legal paperwork on his own in a language he doesn't understand. Still, he's been trying to get the hang of the language.
I thank everybody who are before me to understand the condition from where I am coming. So I glad you for your presence.
The family was initially set to have a court hearing later this month on their asylum claims, but that date was pushed back due to a reshuffling of immigration court priorities, as asylum seekers sent back to Mexico under the Remain in Mexico program are now having their court dates prioritized over non-detained immigrants. For now, the family's just happy to be back together in one place after a trip that bridged 3 continents and an almost 2-year separation. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
The Navy has issued new guidance on CBD, a chemical found in marijuana. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says the rules open questions over how to enforce the military's zero-tolerance policy.
The Navy released new guidelines this month after the latest farm bill legalized hemp-based CBD. It's still against Navy regulation to ingest CBD or use products designed to penetrate the skin, says Sally Butler, a chemist with the Navy Personnel Command, who oversees drug testing.
Currently, we do have an influx of products coming out, and we just want to make sure that they're informed and they're safe.
CBD creams are now okay, provided they contain less than 0.3% THC. That may open up a legal gray area in the Navy's zero-tolerance policy, says Jeff Carver, an attorney who represents mainly military clients in San Diego, including those who failed the Navy's drug test for marijuana.
Even different products are okay, provided that's cream for the skin, shampoo for the hair. Okay, that's okay. If it's below 0.3%, that might pass. Well, that's dangerous.
Carver says the confusing language may make it tougher for the Navy to enforce its zero-tolerance policy for products containing THC. His advice is to steer clear of anything without a prescription. Marijuana remains strictly against Navy policy. Butler says at the moment there is no evidence that using topical CBD creams with less than 0.3% THC will cause a sailor to fail a Navy drug test. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The measles outbreak in the U.S. continues to grow. The number of cases reached more than 1,200, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Cases have been confirmed in 30 states. The CDC says most are among people who are not vaccinated against measles. It also reported more than 75% of measles cases were linked to outbreaks in New York State and New York City. So far, 2 cases of measles have been confirmed here in San Diego County. A new report finds the U.S. throws away at least 3,500 donated kidneys every year. According to a study, between 2004 and 2014, more than 17% of donated kidneys were discarded. More than 37 million Americans have chronic kidney disease, and 5,000 die each year waiting for a new organ. Experts believe this problem stems from transplant centers reluctant to take a chance on an organ that isn't in the best shape. President Donald Trump addressed the issue in July and signed an executive order promising to transform kidney care in the U.S. President Trump headed into the weekend from a major summit between world powers amidst an escalating tariff battle in China. Aides say the president skipped a climate change session that he viewed as a poor use of his time to instead focus on the economy. Whitney Wild reports from Washington.
I think we're going to make a deal with China, and I think eventually we're going to make a deal with Iran, too.
The G7 summit wrapping Monday with President Trump signaling possible deals that would end the trade war with China.
I believe it more strongly now than I would have believed it a while ago.
And perhaps reestablish a nuclear agreement with Iran.
We're looking for no nuclear weapons, no ballistic missiles, and a longer period of time.
During a 30-minute press conference, Trump said he's more hopeful for a deal after China's vice premier called for a calm attitude in negotiations. It's a shift in tone after a weekend that saw China and the U.S. threatening increased tariffs on one another's imported goods.
Are you now ready to make a deal?
Only if it's a fair deal and a good deal for the United States. Otherwise, I will not make a deal.
Trump also applied cautious confidence to international security, saying he may be willing to meet with Iran.
If the circumstances were correct or the right, I would certainly agree to that. But in the meantime, they have to be good players.
Despite the president's positive tone, what, if any, deals will materialize remains unclear. In Washington, I'm Whitney Wild.
Latest numbers now show more than 1.8 million acres have burned in the Amazon rainforest. Some of the wildfires happened naturally, but others were lit intentionally to clear land. CNN's Nick Patton-Walsh takes a look at the devastation.
There's little below but ghosts, and even they seem to have been given up on. These are the newest fires in the worst hit state in the Amazon. We didn't see below us any of the 43,000 troops Brazil's president has pledged to the fight. In fact, in some places, it's so bad you can't even see how bad it is. That'll suit just fine those who'd rather ignore the world's most urgent environmental crisis. No matter how high you are, you can't escape the smoke. We even close our air vents inside the plane to stop it. The sun made this green paradise over millennia, but now barely peeks through the smoke of its destruction.
Well, these apocalyptic sites are kind of like the warnings about what might happen if the world doesn't do something about the climate crisis that you keep hearing. But instead, it's right below us, right here and right now.
I have to climb.
Understand.
What's startling is how much of this immense jungle people have managed to destroy in so short a time.
Unbelievable.
They had help. Fires they lit and that happen naturally in the dry heat, but usually peak later in the year.
This is not just a forest burning, this is almost a cemetery, because all you can see is dead. Amazon, it's extremely fundamental for the water system for all over the continent. So if we cut off the forest, in some years we're not going to have rain on the south of the country.
We find another area where the damage is fresher and easier to see. Raging in straight lines, swallowing everything left on the plain. And when you look at this, you learn something about yourself. Do you see a crisis impacting every fifth breath you take and killing the future? Or do you see what man must do to nature to enrich himself and live better? The answer means little below, where the fire burns our heritage and suffocates our future, regardless of how we feel about it.
Once again, that was CNN's Nick Patton reporting the Amazon rainforest is believed to produce 20% of the world's oxygen. A tropical storm is churning in the Atlanta, and it could turn into a hurricane by tomorrow. Right now, Dorian is just east of the Lesser Antilles. The National Hurricane Center warns it could cause life-threatening surf. Over the next 24 hours, it's expected to pour up to 4 inches of rain over the Windward Islands, Barbados, and Dominica. As it travels toward Puerto Rico, the Hurricane Center expects the storm to slowly strengthen, possibly to a Category 1. Dorian is the 4th named storm of this hurricane season. Hot and humid was the theme for this weekend, and high temperatures are continuing. Meteorologist Aaron Calandra tells us how long the heat will be sticking around.
Thanks for joining us. We are seeing a bit warmer conditions than normal. Our temperatures are slightly above average. It's because we have an offshore flow. It's giving us more sunshine, so things are slightly warmer than normal. Taking a look at the big picture, not a lot going on here across the deserts. It has been awfully dry this season. Tonight, we'll reach 68 degrees for the low, partly cloudy conditions in the metro. Oceanside at 63, Ramona at 58, and El Cajon reaching 66 degrees for those low temperatures. Borrego Springs down to 79. You might see a few clouds, but it's staying dry. High pressure is dominating the southwest, pulling up all that warm air from Mexico and bringing it in this direction. Now notice it's more comfortable along the coast, of course, because of the influence off of the Pacific. But once you step inside into those interior areas, it's warm. We're talking into the 90s for Ramona and also El Cajon. San Diego 77. That's going to be closer to average for tomorrow. Mount Laguna at 82 and Borrego Springs cooking at 110. Make sure you're staying hydrated if you're in the deserts. Here's the look for late week. A big ridge in the jet stream that's allowing all this warm air to move up from the south. We're going to see record challenging temperatures across parts of the Pacific Northwest. It's going to get close with those temperatures up into the 80s, even the 90s in some locations. So here's our 5-day for the coast. Expect to see sunshine every day, perhaps a few clouds just decorating the sky. Our temperatures will be mostly in the upper 70s until Friday. That will be the warmest day of the week, reaching 80. Very pleasant. Inland, expect to see sunny, dry conditions. slightly warmer into the upper 80s and low 90s through Saturday. And in the deserts, it's hot. We're talking triple digits each day. The coolest day of the week will be Thursday when we dip down to 107. And in the mountains, very comfortable conditions. Lots of sunshine, and our highs will be in those low 80s each day. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Back to you.
It might be summer hot, but fall semester has started, and experts say back to school is an ideal time to teach important life lessons. It comes earlier than years past, but the start of the school year brings the same jitters.
Back to school is stressful because things are new, and I think we probably forget how stressful it was for us when we were doing it.
Dr. Stephanie Walsh with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says a child's stomach or headache may actually be the manifestation of stress. And trouble with sleep is usually the first sign something's wrong.
Coping skills need to be learned when they're not stressed. Because when you're stressed, that's when you need to use them, not when you need to learn them. So taking some time with your kids in a nice, quiet environment and say, hey, you know, when I'm nervous, I do some extra deep breathing. Can I talk to you a little bit about this?
Walsh says teaching a child how to handle life's ups and downs can set them up for success later in life.
Our kids tend to be so hard on themselves, and it's really important for them to figure out how to accept themselves, appreciate the fact that they were really brave in a situation and they tried, and that they did their best.
And letting children know it's okay to fail can also help alleviate stress. Doctors add that making sure your child gets plenty of physical activity can also help deal with stress. One Book San Diego encourages readers from San Diego and northern Baja to read and discuss the same book. Here's part of its 2019 selection. The Great Believers was picked for adults. For younger readers, there's The Crossover. And picture book selection goes to Dreamers. You can find more details about the 2019 selections at kpbs.org/onebook. It's the moment Breaking Bad fans have been waiting for, the first trailer for the movie. Netflix just released it this weekend. Take a look.
I don't know what to tell you. I ain't said like 500 times already. I have no idea where he is. Don't know where he's headed either. North, south, west, east, Mexico, the moon. I don't have a clue. But yo, even if I did, who wouldn't tell you? Because I've been watching the news, same as everybody else. I seen that little cage of his they kept him in. I heard about what all they did to him to make sure he kept cooking. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to tell you. No way I'm helping you people put Jesse Pinkman back inside a cage.
The movie is the sequel to the show, which picks up shortly after the series finale. It's been 6 years since that final episode aired on AMC, and fans are hoping the movie finally answers the series cliffhanger. What happened to Jesse Pinkman? It hits Netflix on October 11th, so maybe you'll find out. Today is National Dog Day. The day encourages people to own dogs of all breeds, pure and mixed. But for animals in shelters, advocates say it's difficult waiting for a home. It was even harder for a pup with cancer, with just a few years to live. He waited to be adopted at the shelter, and the shelter wanted to do something special. Brendan King has that story.
We started to think, what is something special that we can do for this sweet pup?
With puppy dog eyes and those floppy ears.
He loves attention when you have a spare moment to snuggle him.
Casey Robertson with Richmond Animal League.
Okay, BB sit. BB shake.
Says she fell instantly in love with BB.
He's such a nice dog.
But inside his well-mannered exterior,
BB's story hit us all a little hard because he does have such a short timeline left.
In May, a vet diagnosed the 6-year-old pup with terminal melanoma.
We're not really sure how long he has left. We just know at most 2 years.
As time runs out, the staff at REL wanted BB to feel special.
What if we give BB a big day out? BB's big day out.
A Thursday full of car rides, shopping.
He wound up with 2 bags of dog treats, 2 dog chews,
and ice cream.
Got Cool Whip and sprinkles. We also had the cherry on top.
Casey admits finding his forever home,
he loves life massages,
has been difficult.
It is always a big ask to ask somebody to adopt a dog or a cat who knowingly has a lot of medical issues.
But she remains determined.
We want those 2 years to be in a home. So we really wanted to get BB's story out there and to let people know how special he is.
Hi, are you okay?
And we have some good news to report. BB was adopted over the weekend. His new mom saw the shelter's Instagram post featuring BB and thought they'd be a perfect match. She says he's doing great in his new forever home. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.